Boat manufacturers are facing a real disaster, and the scary part is how invisible it looks from the dock. A hull can be flawless, while the company behind it is quietly running out of oxygen. When the factory goes quiet, your warranty becomes a story, not a promise. No announcements, no helpful emails, just silence. Suddenly, a perfectly good boat starts behaving like a risky asset. Production pauses, dealer networks thinning out, parts delays stretching into entire seasons, and resale buyers treating your listing like a question mark. Number 11. Rand boats. It usually starts with something small that should be easy. A trim piece, a branded panel, a single component that turns a quick fix into a week of unanswered calls. Nothing feels catastrophic until you realize the boat is fine and the support is not. Rand Boats was declared bankrupt in Denmark in late 2025. Their appeal has always been the clean, modern day boat vibe. Minimal lines, social layouts, simple ownership energy. That simplicity is exactly why the corporate risk sneaks up on people. Owners assume a simple-looking boat must be simple to support. In reality, simple still needs supply chains, documentation, service relationships, and someone who can approve parts and warranty claims with authority. Here is what changes for owners in 2026. Warranty becomes less predictable, because the entity that promised it may not be the entity that exists now. Dealers may want to help, yet reimbursement pathways can get muddy. Branded parts can become a scavenger hunt. Resale becomes psychological. Buyers are not just inspecting the boat, they are imagining their own future support experience. A buyer who wants peace will often pay more for an older boat from a brand that feels stable, even if the Rand is objectively nicer. So the inspection mindset shifts from condition to continuity. Ask for a parts map. Which components are standard industry items versus brand-specific pieces? Demand documentation, wiring diagrams, manuals, supplier names, part numbers. Find out who will service it next season, not who serviced it 3 seasons ago. When support is uncertain, paperwork becomes your spare parts locker. A bargain can be real here, but only if the discount is large enough to pay you for the uncertainty you are inheriting. The cheapest purchase is often the one that quietly buys you responsibility that used to belong to the factory. Number 10. Q Yachts. The trap with future boats is that they sell peace. Quiet propulsion, clean design, less mess, less maintenance, fewer smells, fewer fluids, fewer moving parts. The pitch is that boating becomes more like owning a device than owning a machine. For many people, that is the dream. The danger is that the dream depends on something nobody wants to think about during the purchase: support continuity. The boat can be perfect on the demo day and still become complicated later if the support network behind the technology gets thin. In July 2025, Finnish electric boat manufacturer Q Yachts filed for bankruptcy. Electric boats are not automatically risky. The risk is dependency. On a traditional boat, you can often limp home, improvise, or find a local mechanic who has seen something similar. On a niche electric platform, a handful of components carry a lot of weight: motor controllers, battery management systems, charging hardware, high voltage safety systems, diagnostic tools, and software-adjacent issues that do not respond to a wrench the way people are used to. When the builder behind a system is reorganizing or gone, the boat can remain physically solid while becoming practically complicated. What owners feel in 2026 is not always failure. It is friction. A diagnostic step that used to be handled quickly now takes extra calls. A replacement part that once came through normal channels now requires detective work. A technician who is excellent with traditional systems might hesitate with a niche electric platform if factory-level guidance, training, or documentation is missing. That hesitation matters. In peak season, downtime is not just inconvenient, it changes how owners feel about their boat. That is how quiet and simple quietly turns into quiet and parked. There is also a psychological trap that hits buyers hard. The assumption that fewer mechanical parts means fewer problems, so ownership must be easier. Often it is easier, until the one problem you do have involves a component that is rare, expensive, or slow to source. Then, the simplicity becomes a single point of failure. The boat is still simple, yet the solution is not. A smart inspection here looks less like a sea trial and more like a supply chain audit. Who supplies the battery modules? Are they widely used across industries or unique to this brand's ecosystem? Who supports the motor controllers? Can a competent local technician run full diagnostics without factory access? Where does the charging hardware come from? And is it replaceable through standard vendors? Has the boat already been serviced successfully after the bankruptcy, with invoices that prove real-world support? The uncomfortable truth is that low maintenance still requires high support. Now, watch what happens when the same promise gets wrapped in premium pricing and a stronger marketing presence. Number 9. X-Shore. Sometimes the most expensive-looking boats create the most dangerous illusion. If it costs this much, the company must be stable. Premium can actually be brittle. The build is expensive, the parts mix is specialized, the supply chain is more sensitive, and customer expectations leave very little room for delays. When a premium builder hits turbulence, owners do not experience it as a headline. They experience it as waiting, uncertainty, and a subtle shift in how confidently people talk about the brand. In October 2025, X-Shore Production AB, the manufacturing arm behind X-Shore, filed for bankruptcy. The nuance that confuses buyers is that corporate structures can be layered. A brand voice can still exist while the production engine underneath it stumbles. Owners do not live inside that nuance. They live inside lead times, parts availability, dealer follow-through, warranty clarity, and the future resale conversation. 2026 is where the ripple becomes personal. A buyer who would have jumped on a used listing last year now asks different questions first. Not, how fast is it, but who supports it? Not, what's the top speed? But, what happens when a controller throws a fault code in July? Dealers often stay polite, yet promises get softer. Timelines get less specific. Warranty claims can feel more procedural. Even if the boat runs beautifully, buyers start pricing in the chance that a small problem becomes a long wait, and that pricing pressure shows up in negotiations. So the practical way to buy or own through this environment is to reduce dependence wherever possible. Identify which systems are mainstream vendor components with broad service networks and which systems are brand-specific or require specialized authorization. Demand documentation that makes the boat serviceable without a factory lifeline. Wiring diagrams, system layouts, spare part references, software version notes where applicable, and a clear service history. If you are buying used, ask for proof that the boat has already been supported successfully during the post-bankruptcy period. Invoices and completed work orders matter more than confident opinions. X-Shore shows how quickly the market's mood can change, without the boat changing at all. The next manufacturer shows what happens when the boat itself is hard to repair without the original ecosystem still breathing. Number 8. Say Carbon Yachts. The most beautiful boats can be the hardest businesses. Carbon construction and performance luxury create products that are expensive to build, expensive to fix, and sensitive to sales slowdowns. When the business side stumbles, owners discover that exclusivity is not just a vibe. It is a dependency. In early 2024, German builder Say Carbon Yachts initiated insolvency proceedings. They later relaunched under new ownership, which is exactly why this chapter matters. Insolvency does not always end a brand, yet it can permanently change the ownership ecosystem. Here is what owners feel in 2026. The difference between supported and survivable. A carbon project often includes specialized hardware, specific finishes, unique structural parts, and relationships with select vendors. Even when the boat is strong, a minor incident can become a major timeline because repair standards are higher and the right expertise matters. If the original builder team changes, the way problems get solved can change to slower approvals, different vendors, less institutional memory. So, your inspection is not just about cosmetics and engine hours, it is about independence. Can third-party specialists repair the boat to proper standards without factory-only tooling? Are suppliers identified clearly with part numbers and contact paths? Is the documentation deep enough that the boat can be serviced even if the brand is busy rebuilding itself? The best deals in this category are the ones sold by owners who treated documentation like a second hull. The worst deals are the ones sold on romance. It's incredible. You'll figure it out. That sentence is how budgets get eaten. Now we leave the world of brand turbulence and step into something more delicate. A builder, where the boat's value depends on a specific group of people still being available to stand behind it. Before we go further, I want a reality check from people who have lived it. Have you ever owned a boat where support started strong, then quietly thinned out, parts got slower, dealers got vague, warranty turned into negotiation? Drop a comment with the manufacturer, and the first moment you knew something was off, was it parts, service, paperwork, or promises? If this breakdown helps you spot risk beyond the brochure, hit like, so I keep making these, and subscribe so you catch the next list before the market does. Number 7. Boston Boatworks. There is a kind of risk that does not show up in a survey. The boat can be immaculate, the systems can be premium, the owner can be meticulous. Yet you still feel uneasy because the brand's stability is part of what you are buying. In the United States, boutique builder Boston Boatworks filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in early 2025. This is where exclusive becomes dangerous. Boutique builders often deliver incredible fit and finish. They also rely on smaller teams, tight vendor networks, and a service culture built on relationships. Chapter 11 can reshape that culture, projects triaged, vendors stricter, staffing less predictable. What owners feel in 2026 is not always no support. It is support that behaves differently. Some problems get solved quickly. Others move slowly because authorization becomes procedural. Parts might exist, but the path to get them becomes more complex. The boat is still premium. The process is not as smooth. So inspection becomes accountability focused. If the boat is new or recently delivered, verify commissioning is truly complete. Get a written list of open items, plus who is responsible for each. Identify which systems are directly supported by large suppliers and which were integrated in a way that relies on builder knowledge. Major suppliers can still honor their portion of support. Integration quirks are where owners get stuck. For used buyers, documentation is the deal. Wiring diagrams, system layouts, service histories, vendor lists, those reduce dependence on a builder who may be reorganizing priorities. The boats can remain excellent, but in this environment, the smartest buyer acts like their future self will not have time for mystery. And if you think boutique complexity is the worst kind of support risk, let me surprise you, because there is a manufacturer that looks mainstream, looks sturdy. It looks like the safe choice, right up until corporate restructuring turns simple service into slow-motion friction. Number 6. AllCraft Marine and Century Boats. It is easy to trust a brand that feels established. Familiar logos, recognizable hulls, boats you have seen at marinas for years. That familiarity can hide corporate fragility, especially when the parent company is carrying debt and trying to restructure. In January 2025, AllCraft Marine, the parent company of Century Boats, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. For owners, this is the kind of event that rarely causes immediate failure. Instead, it shifts the background conditions of ownership, warranty logistics, parts pipelines, dealer confidence, even the speed at which small issues get handled. What 2026 can feel like is support drag. Dealers may still be willing to help, but reimbursement can be slower or less certain. Some parts can be easy, others can involve extra phone calls, extra approvals, extra waiting. Insurance and resale buyers notice those rumors fast. Even if the boat is great, the market starts pricing may be harder to support. So, your inspection should focus on fundamentals that reduce your need for factory intervention. Look at rigging quality. Clean grounds, sealed connectors, disciplined battery wiring, tidy harness routing. These are not cosmetic details. They determine whether the boat ages calmly or develops electrical weirdness that requires specialized troubleshooting. A boat with strong fundamentals will survive corporate turbulence better than a boat already full of creative splices. Also ask the uncomfortable question directly. What does support look like today? Not last decade. Not, they used to be great. What is the current parts turnaround? Which dealer handles warranty? What do they do when something is back-ordered? Corporate restructuring creates slow friction. Administration creates a different kind of problem. It puts doubt into the market, and doubt can move prices faster than any mechanical issue ever could. Number 5. Fairline Yachts. When a famous name stumbles, the market reacts before the water does. That reaction is what owners end up feeling. Buyers get cautious, lenders scrutinize, insurers ask harder questions. Service networks become more careful with promises. In January 2025, British builder Fairline Yachts entered administration. Fairline boats can be excellent. Administration does not magically ruin a hull. It does change the ownership ecosystem. Production priorities shift. Staffing may fluctuate. Warranty pathways can become less clear. And the resale conversation becomes more negotiation-heavy. 2026 pain points are usually not one big failure. They are timing and coordination. A part that used to come fast now takes longer. A warranty question becomes a process. A technician schedule becomes tighter because specialist labor is always finite. Owners often discover that the easy luxury experience depends on a lot of behind-the-scenes structure. So the inspection strategy becomes vendor-centric. Engines, major components, and many systems are supported by large global suppliers. That is the safety net. Builder-specific parts, custom interior items, certain hardware, specialized glass, unique finishes are where lead times can bite. Identify those early. Confirm documentation is complete. Ask for proof of recent successful support, not just a belief that support will return to normal soon. Here is the subtle part. Administration can shake confidence even if the brand continues operating. That means buyers will ask you to discount for uncertainty. If you buy in this period, you want enough margin that resale psychology cannot trap you later. Next comes a lesson from a smaller British builder story. Not a global luxury machine, but a niche brand with loyal owners, where liquidation changes the entire support landscape in a way that can strand people with beautiful boats and limited pathways. Number 4. Seaward and the Boat Development Company, Limited. A loyal owner community can keep a brand alive in spirit long after the factory struggles in reality. That community is powerful, yet it cannot manufacture parts, honor warranties, or keep a production line humming when the company itself is being wound up. In August 2024, the Boat Development Company Limited, trading as Seaward, entered liquidation, winding up with liquidators appointed. Seaward's reputation comes from capable cruising designs and a certain kind of British practicality. When a builder like that goes into liquidation, the risk is not the boats are bad. The risk is that ownership becomes more self-reliant. 2026 ownership in this scenario depends on how standardized the boats are. Many components may be off-the-shelf marine hardware supported broadly. That is the good news. The bad news is builder-specific items, certain molded parts, proprietary fittings, unique windows, specific interior pieces, branded panels. Those become difficult when there is no factory to call. So inspection becomes a question of interchangeability. Which pieces can be sourced from the wider marine ecosystem, and which pieces were unique to the builder's supply chain? A well-maintained Seaward with smart, documented replacements using standard components where possible can be a fantastic boat. A neglected one with missing documentation can become a long-term parts hunt. For existing owners, the smartest move is preventive. Document everything. Identify critical spares. Stock what you can. Build relationships with independent yards that understand the model. Your support network becomes people, not the factory. If liquidation is the end of a chapter, a production pause is the moment right before the page turns. Uncertainty without closure. That kind of uncertainty can create its own market weirdness, and the next manufacturer is a perfect example. Number 3. Catalina Yachts. A production pause is not the same as bankruptcy, yet it can feel similar to owners, because it forces the question nobody wants to say out loud: are we still safe? When a builder pauses, the boat you already own does not change. What changes is the background confidence that makes ownership feel easy. Dealers start speaking more carefully. Buyers start negotiating as if uncertainty itself is a defect. Even people who never planned to sell begin thinking about resale, because the market's mood can shift faster than the boat's condition. In October 2025, Catalina Yachts publicly announced a temporary production pause while reorganizing operations amid financial challenges. That announcement landed differently because Catalina is not a tiny boutique name. Catalina's advantage has always been scale and community. Catalina boats are everywhere, owner knowledge is everywhere, and many parts and systems are standard vendor components that do not depend on a single factory staying perfect forever. In other words, Catalina ownership usually comes with a natural safety net. Still, 2026 is where the pause creates pressure points. New orders become contract sensitive. Dealers may manage inventory more cautiously and avoid promising timelines they cannot control. Buyers may worry about warranty pathways, even if the company intends to stabilize, because people have learned that good intentions do not always translate into smooth logistics. Rumors can distort reality faster than official updates can correct them, especially online where fear spreads quicker than clarity. So the smartest inspection depends on what you are doing. If you are buying used, prioritize documentation and standardization. Boats with mainstream hardware, clear upgrade histories, and complete manuals are far easier to keep healthy through uncertainty. Ask for service records that show proactive care, not just emergency fixes. Look for evidence that the boat was maintained like an asset, because during uncertain times, well-kept boats hold value better. If you are ordering new during a pause environment, inspection is contractual. Deposit protection, escrow terms, milestone payments, refund conditions, delivery clarity, and written promises matter more than cosmetic options. Most buyers forget that contracts are part of boat ownership. In a production pause environment, contracts become the main hull. A pause creates uncertainty. What comes next creates damage. This is where manufacturer risk stops being about future support and starts becoming about money that can't be unwired. Number 2, Pacific Motor Yachts. The most painful boat stories rarely start on the water. They start at the bank. A deposit wired, a promise made, a delivery timeline that felt believable, until the company collapses and the buyer realizes they were not purchasing a boat. They were financing a structure that could fail. This is the category where emotion is strongest, because people did everything the normal way and still end up trapped. Pacific Motor Yachts in Australia became associated with a collapse that was widely reported as leaving customers exposed to major losses and complicated recovery paths after the business folded and went into liquidation. That is the harshest version of manufacturer instability because it infects everything at once: title, liens, custody, build completion, even the ability to insure or register cleanly. The boat is no longer the center of the story. The paperwork becomes the story. 2026 is when aftershocks often surface. Partially completed projects get resold. Boats tied to collapsed transactions appear on the secondary market. Listings look tempting because sellers want out. Buyers see prices that feel like once-in-a-lifetime deals. That is exactly when the trap snaps shut, because a low price cannot solve a legal knot. A great deal becomes a slow leak of time, fees, and stress. Inspection here is documentary warfare. Verify title. Verify liens. Verify yard release documents. Verify custody history. Confirm which entity owns the hull. Confirm whether suppliers or yards have claims. If the boat is in a yard, confirm whether storage fees or work invoices attach to it. If the build crossed borders or involved multiple companies, confirm each handoff. If any part of the story sounds like, "It should be fine," treat that as a warning siren. Ambiguity is not a detail in this category, it is the entire risk. And the final chapter is the largest scale reminder of all. Even at the highest end, where money looks infinite, shipyards still live and die on cash flow, contracts, and timelines. Number 1. Nobiskrug. Mega yacht builders like Nobiskrug are not just manufacturers, they are ecosystems. These yards manage payrolls for hundreds of highly specialized workers, maintain deep relationships with dozens of suppliers, and operate on project timelines that stretch years. Their financial stability is closely tied to capital liquidity, payment schedules, and global market conditions. So when something breaks, whether it's a paused payment, a stalled contract, or a delayed component, the impact is magnified across the entire operation. In December 2024, Nobiskrug, one of Germany's most recognized mega yacht shipyards, filed for insolvency proceedings. Known for engineering feats like sailing Yacht A, the yard has long stood for technical boldness and ultra-custom builds. But even a reputation built on excellence is no shield when cash flow tightens or project delays stack up. That is the warning. In 2026, what buyers should notice is not just the brand's fate. It is the structural fragility underneath even the most prestigious names. One late payment in a billion-euro build can disrupt everything. If the shipyard is the spider in the web, then insolvency cuts the threads, and what used to be a boat-building timeline becomes a legal maze. Builder risk is not a superyacht problem. It is a boating problem. When a name wobbles, the real product becomes paperwork, parts access, timelines, and trust. That is why contracts, escrow terms, lien releases, and documentation matter as much as the hull. Now I want your real-world example. Which manufacturer did you watch lose support first? And what was the first crack parts, service, paperwork, or promises? Hit like if this helped you see risk beyond the brochure, and subscribe so you catch the next breakdown before it becomes your expensive surprise.